302 men and women killed, over 10,000 injured. Injured, a clinical word that masks the sadness and savagery of injury. Their pain, their suffering, their permanent physical and mental reminders. Real people, real human beings, were murdered, maimed, intimidated, and all because of the job they did on behalf of society as a whole. When all else failed, the RUC was the bulwark against those who were committed to its very destruction. On many occasions during 30 turbulent years, fragile democracy was only maintained because of the dedication and commitment of people who were brave enough to don the green uniform. Their selfless contribution to upholding the rule of law created the breathing space to allow politics to take centre stage. They are the people who forced terrorist organisations to rethink their murderous campaigns to the point where politics, and not the gun, became the preferred option. And if permanent peace is achieved, it will in no small way be as a result of the courage and professionalism of the RUC.
I don't honestly believe that we would be in the position we are today on the political front had it not been for the sacrifice of the men and women of the RUC. The fact that people got up day and daily, despite the risks, despite the effects that it was having on their family lives, their social lives, and continued to go and do a policing job in very, very difficult circumstances. I don't believe we would have arrived at this juncture had it not been for that sacrifice.
This police service is about to undergo monumental change. The irony is heavy. Ordinary people doing an extraordinary job, the men and women of the RUC who handled the onslaught and worked so tirelessly for peace, will have to make a further sacrifice for the sake of political expediency.
We've paid a very high price and will continue to pay a high price. It's a thankless task. They're caught now in the political scenario, but you can't leave politics out of it, and yet you should be able to leave politics out of it. But at the same time, the police are being used and misused, and it wouldn't matter what they were. If they were God's gift to everything, they'll still get the blame. And I think that's the bit that if you were still working, you would find very frustrating. It's frustrating enough when you're retired, but it must be even worse to be actually working in it day to day. And I just feel they've been cheated and treated very badly for generally political purposes.
The award of the George Cross by the Queen is richly deserved, but even that will become a posthumous award in order to placate bitter opponents.
I feel quite strongly that the George Cross should, if the Royal Ulster Constabulary name is to go, then I feel quite strongly that the George Cross finishes with it. The Northern Ireland Police Service, or the Police Service of Northern Ireland, whatever they're going to call us, should have their own identity and own future. But those who have given the sterling service going back even to 1922 deserve to have that recognised, and I believe that the George Cross is recognition of that service.
The RUC is unique in Western Europe. No other police service in any civilised society has been asked to give so much with so little permanent acknowledgement in return. Few, if any, could match its expertise. No other agency could have handled the barbarity from rival tribes without massive hemorrhaging, while at the same time delivering ordinary everyday policing. Those who have served have had to pay a heavy price. They and their families ostracised, vilified and shunned because they wanted to contribute to society. For many, the commitment cost them their lives.
I am an RUC widow and will remain an RUC widow, and if it's down to our organisation to carry on the name, we'll do that with immense pride, with immense dedication, because we're proud of what our husbands lived for and died for, and we'll be there.
Over the years, almost 800 police families have been intimidated from their homes by both Republican and Loyalist paramilitaries, intimidation which still goes on even now. New research by the Police Rehabilitation and Retraining Trust shows that half the officers who leave on medical grounds require psychological counselling. Of those who leave for non-medical reasons, a fifth require treatment. The human price of policing is still being paid by officers, even when they retire.
I think the greatest compliment somebody can give me is to say I didn't know you were hurt. and that's what it's all. You're leading a normal life, and that's what you can do. It's always at the back of your mind. You can't expect the public to, every time you see a limit passed, remind you of it, nor would you want them to. But I think it's nice, in the case of Paul Slane, where that image was portrayed without having to say anything. That was just purely visual, and that indicates to the public the price that's been paid by Paul and a lot of other people. And when you think of people who've been brain injured, you know, that would be the most harming to me. The physical bit you can recover, but the mental bit would really, that's what would put me down. And that's why I'm so grateful that we're as healthy as we are.
Well, it's not going to be easy for an ex-RUC man to walk in anywhere to get a job, because, I mean, that so-called label, so to speak, is going to hang over their head. And they must be treated generously and they must be treated fairly.
Patten and the bill now before Parliament will have far-reaching consequences for this service. Much of what is proposed makes good management sense, and the Police Federation acknowledges that. The Federation wants what is best for the police service of the 21st century, and by extension for this society. But it has a number of valid objections to the manner in which the restructuring is being implemented.
Without the Royal Ulster Constabulary, as someone once said, the thin green line, we would have had anarchy in Northern Ireland. Those men and women who put on the uniform to only go out and do their jobs for law and order and to protect the community deserve every accolade, and they do not deserve to be treated in any way with contempt or otherwise. I feel that the government should really have stood up and said, we recognise the sacrifice of the Royal Ulster Constabulary, we realise that other people have differences, however, they are the police service that we want to see go forward. But I live in a real world, and we will wait and see how the democratic will of Parliament operates in the next few months.
The men and women of this police force stood in the line of fire for the past 30 years, never wavered, regardless of what front the problems were being presented on. And at this particular point, in order to move ahead, I believe the government are going to have to treat us with a degree of respect, and they're going to have to treat us fairly.
Here is an organisation with exacting standards, motivated by a desire to serve, and an even greater desire to see the peace it worked to achieve. A new service will not start from scratch. The core values of commitment, professionalism, impartiality and courage will form the basis of the new beginning. The very real and tangible legacy left by the officers of the RUC who saved a community from terrorist anarchy. The Federation is unafraid of change, but wants to secure equitable treatment for officers who will face enormous personal upheaval. It merely seeks fairness and honour, the same attributes that earned the RUC the George Cross in the first place. It deserves no less.
For the past 30 years, the Royal Ulster Constabulary has been both the bulwark against and the main target of a sustained and brutal terrorist campaign. The force has suffered heavily in protecting both sides of the community from danger. 302 officers have been killed in the line of duty, and thousands more injured, many seriously. Many officers have been ostracised by their own community, and others have been forced to leave their homes in the face of threats to them or their families. As Northern Ireland reaches a turning point in its political development, this award is made to recognise the collective courage and dedication to duty of all those who have served in the Royal Ulster Constabulary, and who have accepted the danger and stress this has brought to them and their families. This tribute is dedicated to the memory of the 302 men and women of the RUC who were murdered in the course of serving the community.